Welcome to Living a Nutritious Life. I'm Keri Glassman, a celebrity registered dietitian nutritionist. Join me every Tuesday on YouTube and your favorite podcast platforms as I bring in some heavy hitters to share the latest in nutrition and wellness science. We dive deep into food, sleep, stress, relationships, and so much more. Your weekly guide to a happier, healthier, more nutritious life. Are you the friend who's always being asked for health advice? Now imagine turning that passion into a fulfilling career with our Become a Nutrition Coach program. Step into a world where your enthusiasm for wellness becomes the heart of your own thriving business. With me as your professor and guide and coach on our user-friendly digital platform, you can learn from anywhere at your very own pace. It's perfect for your busy life. Envision empowering others to live their healthiest lives, all while growing a career you love. You're not just gaining a certification here, you're joining a community of like-minded professionals ready to support and celebrate with you every step of the way. So what are you waiting for? It's time to nourish your future and help change lives, including your own. Head over to nutritiouslife.com/BNC for a free class and a sneak peek of the program. Your journey to becoming a nutrition coach begins now. Struggling with sleep in midlife? You are not alone. Welcome to the Living a Nutritious Life Podcast. I am your host, Keri Glassman, and if you know me, you know sleep is the nutritious life pillar I personally struggle with the most, which is why I was so excited to chat with sleep expert Sarah Petroski to dig into the science behind why so many women face sleep challenges during perimenopause and menopause, and just in general. Sarah is a personal trainer, Kundalini Yoga teacher, and sleep performance coach specializing in cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia. She holds a postgraduate degree in sleep medicine from the University of Oxford and has spent the past 20 years teaching movement and mindfulness practices. On today's podcast, we discuss sleep and hormonal changes, sleep apnea, and the power of routines, meditation, and exercise on getting quality rest. If you're just craving a good night's sleep, because a truly nutritious life begins when you prioritize your rest, you do not want to miss this episode. As always, if you love the podcast, please rate, review, and share it with some friends. And check out the notes for more on Sarah. Okay, let's do this. Welcome, Sarah, to the Living a Nutritious Life Podcast.
I am so excited to be here. I hope my Wi-Fi stays strong because we have so much to talk about. I don't even know where to begin or end.
I know, because the topic of sleep, first of all, sleep in midlife is something that I don't know. I don't know a woman in midlife that does not struggle with sleep, or I should say that it is very, very, very rare. Every once in a blue moon, I will come across someone who says they sleep like a baby, but that is so rare. So yes, we have so much to talk about. I'm one of those people that I've never slept like a baby. I don't think I slept like a baby when I was a baby. So I've never slept well. So we've really got a lot to talk about. But before
that's one of the reasons I got into this.
Oh, really? Oh, I'm excited to hear about that. Okay. It's funny, actually. My mom actually loves to talk about this topic, that I never slept well and that I was just always kind of wired and ready to go. And she loves showing me this picture of me sleeping on the stairs, literally on a stair, because I had gotten up in the middle of the night. I didn't want to miss some action or something. And I had just made it halfway down the stairs and then stopped tired and fell asleep on the stairs, because I just, never wanted to sleep, never was a good sleeper. So anyway, but let's actually go back and hear your, you just mentioned, that's how you got into this. So I want to hear about that, because I think you have a really interesting background. You're a sleep expert, and I want to hear exactly, how you became a sleep expert, what that actually means, but also you're a yoga instructor, and you combine those two things in the work you do with your clients. And so I really, want to hear how you got into that and how you have combined those two things together to work with people today.
Yeah. And a personal trainer primarily.
Okay. Yeah, that too. Yeah. Forgot about that whole thing too.
And weights and all that, and the importance of that. But yeah, no, it's funny you tell that story. My mom loves to complain and talk about like that. Apparently, I wish I could rewind the clock and like videotape and see how much accuracy there is to this, but that she says I didn't sleep through the night till I was 4, and that she woke up and like had a heart attack and a panic because she thought something was wrong because I was sleeping. But yeah, also look, you said bad at sleeping. I'm saying good at life. Just a curious, engaged, day to end child, right?
I like that attitude. That's a good way to look at it. Exactly.
Yeah, but women, women in general we'll get into it, but much more prone to insomnia than men. There are gender differences in sleep, and that's one of the big ones. And we'll touch on that. But yeah, so I have ADHD, and so that's like a multi-hyphenate, multi-passionate, very all over the place career trajectory. I went to school for parks and recreation, actually, was going to be like, I love to be outside, and it's been exercise sports science is also included in that degree. So the movement has always been in there. And then got into television production, which is what led me to move to New York some 24 years ago. My first career was actually in sports television production. And that is a crazy sleep schedule. You're up all night, like with the games and doing live feeds, and your sleep starts to get a bit broken there. And then I transitioned at some point because that just didn't feel like a healthy lifestyle into going back to school for exercise physiology and became a personal trainer. Guess what? Those are also split shifts, and your sleep gets, hit. And then I was like, well, maybe I need to relax more. And that's when I did my yoga teacher training. And so I've always kind of struggled to fall asleep. So more of a night owl. Ever since I've been a little person, more of a night owl, and struggle to like wake up in the morning, like school. I was always late for school, always falling asleep in school. It's a whole other podcast, but there is some correlation with that and the ADHD, having what they call a delayed sleep phase and a delayed response to melatonin, actually. So many fun things you learn in sleep school. And yeah, so it's always kind of been an issue, but I've always had very vivid dreams, and I've always loved to sleep. But I've always had a hard time sleeping and struggled with like low daytime energy and chasing the caffeine and being on that wheel because of it. And so basically, whenever the pandemic shutdown happened in 2020, all the gyms in Manhattan closed, the yoga studios closed. As you know, like most of us went online and are teaching online classes, and they'll pay what you can and like this and that. And some of my peers really exploded into online training. And I was doing that a bit, but I was also noticing like, oh, I'm getting more sleep now, but it's also all over the place without the structure.
Right.
And I was noticing that with a lot of people. And I was like, this is like kind of the pause where I'm not working so much. I'm not in that grind, where I've always been really fascinated and interested and curious about sleep and how we just kind of push it to the side. And I also think being a yoga instructor, I'm so interested in subconscious and unconscious behaviors. And so sleep was kind of this like vast, it felt like I wanted to know not just how can we make it better, but what's going on when we go to sleep. What's going on in our brain? We're processing so much that affects our daily life, in our emotional, in our mood, in our energy. And so I just really was like, I think this is a chance that maybe I could dive deep into that. And so that's when I applied to grad schools, not thinking I would get in at all because that's not my forte. I had been a personal trainer for almost 20 years at that point. But lo and behold, I did get in, and then went into a very deep dive into this graduate program in sleep medicine. Got pregnant during that time as well. So I got a real crash course in sleep deprivation when I was, writing research papers while tending to a newborn. And yeah, here we are. And now it's like pretty much my full focus. I still do personal training because I love it. It hasn't integrated so much yet. You said, how do you interweave it? I really work on emphasizing the exercise and yoga and meditation and like de-arousal with the sleep coaching clients, but none of my personal training clients have spoken to me about sleep yet. I think they just, I don't know. I want to merge them, but it feels like they see me as like the one hat and not the other.
Okay. So you have some personal training clients, and then you have your sleep coaching clients, and the sleep coaching clients, you incorporate the movement and the meditation, but the personal training clients, you're not necessarily incorporating the sleep coaching training.
Exactly.
Okay. Okay. All right. That makes sense.
You know,
they'll get there. Maybe they'll get there. Maybe they'll see you wearing that other hat. Okay. All right. So yeah, that's really interesting. And it's so interesting how your different interests kind of all, stacked on top of one another and have come together, and how you are, utilizing them together. And even if some of those personal training clients don't see it yet, that training is helping them sleep, even if they're not thinking about it, it is doing something for them. So anyway, okay. So I want to talk a little bit about, as I began this podcast talking about, midlife women specifically. We do have a lot of women in midlife, like myself, that listen to this podcast. And we know that during this time of life, a lot of women, if they have not struggled with sleep before, this is a time when sleep can really just become a very big issue. Waking up in the middle of the night, having trouble falling asleep, waking up early in the morning and not being able to fall back asleep, all kinds of issues related to sleep. I think many women are aware that, part of that has to do with because of the, hormonal changes, the shifts in hormones, progesterone, estrogen, et cetera. Sometimes obviously due to hot flashes, waking them up and those types of disturbances in the middle of the night. Sometimes there's more things going on in our brains. So there's many different reasons, but can you get into a little bit of the details there of what actually is happening, like the science of what is actually going on in midlife as it relates to our hormones, just so women can have, because I think some women think they know what's happening there, but just so they can have like that kind of like the 411 on it.
Yeah. And like you said, I think most women think they know what's happening there, but what's also important to know is that no matter what's happening there, we also have the tools to help. And there are many things going on. And that's why the treatments are also layered. There's not a one size fits all. It's kind of a combination. So as you mentioned, the main things we're looking at are there is a shift in hormones. So the hormone changes, the psychosocial demands of this particular stress time of life. As I was mentioning at the beginning, women's prevalence of insomnia and, across the lifespan, basically starting at puberty, women are more prone to insomnia than men. And it may just spike more during this time because of maybe the other hormonal factors. And so we're noticing it more now, right? And then a main one I really want to touch on, because I think a lot of women don't know about, is the increased prevalence of sleep apnea, of obstructive sleep apnea during this time. And that has to do with the hormonal changes as well.
I don't think a lot of women think about sleep apnea as being one of the reasons they're not sleeping at midlife. And I think a lot of people also associate that more with men.
Yeah. And so it is more associated with men up until midlife. And then women tend to catch up. And there's some studies that say that potentially up to 90% of women's sleep apnea is not diagnosed. It's not treated because it looks and shows up differently. It can show up more as daytime sleepiness. Do you wake up with a dry mouth? Do you wake up with a headache? So people look at it and it's more like, oh, that might be dehydration, depression. They don't think sleep apnea. You don't look, people think male, people think obese, people think things that do affect it. But so as we age, that our hormones actually do help with the tone of our muscles. And so as the hormones decrease, we do lose some tone in that upper airway. And so I wrote it down. I said I wanted to refer to some of the notes here. So the prevalence of sleep apnea in women 30 to 60 years old is 5%. So yeah, it is more men. But then once you get to 65 years old, it's 56%. So huge jump. That's 1,020% increase. Right? But when is that happening?
Right.
You know, it's like, yeah, the study I'm talking about says 30 to 60, but you know, it's starting to slowly happen probably during that hormone loss time.
Right.
So,
exactly.
yeah. And so that's a huge thing. I mean, I feel like when we're a certain age, we're told to get a mammogram or get a colon, you know, a colonoscopy. I feel like women really should push. And I would hope that maybe in the future, they'll be like, hey, you get a certain age, your PCP gives you an at-home apnea test. Because for women, the symptoms can be so different and so minor and not look like sleep apnea. And
yeah, it's so interesting. And it's one of those that, I mean, we know, like when you sleep well, I mean, that changes everything. I mean, and it's one of those things, like it is critical. I mean, and as you know, I mean, sleep is a pillar of a nutritious life, because as I've discussed for all these years that I've been, you know, teaching nutrition, I've also been talking about sleep because it is as critical. That's why it's a pillar. It's not just about what you eat. It's like your sleep is just as critical. It affects your health just as much, but we often don't pay as much attention. I mean, I think in the past, you know, 10, 15 years, people have absolutely started paying a lot more attention to it. But like you just said, something like that, like doing a sleep apnea test, just even for preventative reasons, and just to be on top of it before these issues come up, like that would be, I mean, that would be brilliant. That would be great.
Absolutely. And also because it's so effectively treated. Like obviously the gold standard is the CPAP, the mask, and not a lot of people want to wear that. They have a lot of like associations with that. You don't want to wear it, but there are other treatments just about like the position that you're sleeping.
Yeah.
You get a mouth guard that opens up your airway a little bit, and like, why not treat that? Because, you know, sleep apnea, even it's also related to cardiometabolic disease and all these things. And like you were saying, it being the pillar, one of the pillars of a nutritious life, you know that a lot of these things are also like bidirectional. So when you're not sleeping well, your hormones shift so that you end up not eating well. But when you can
exactly,
you're not sleeping well. And so
exactly. And that's nutritious life. That's exactly what I talk about. So
but I wanted to go back on the hormones. So basically kind of, and we were talking the sleep apnea and the hormones are related, because the hormones, you know, we're starting to see there's not unsurprisingly, there's not a ton of research on this. Like I spent the past week since we said we were going to do this, like going back in the archives of all these like sleep lectures that I go to. And I looked in the archives going back to like 2000, the past like 7 years. And there was nothing on this. There are some great people that are researching women's hormones and sleep right now. But it's like just kind of started happening in the past few years. But there's a woman, Kat Kennedy at University of Arizona. She's amazing. She's been doing a lot of work with hormones and sleep. And one of the things that the studies that she's shown is when they look at menstruating women, so they studied sleep over the course of the menstrual cycle. And basically, what it continues to show is that people kind of subjectively and objectively report the best sleep when they're ovulating, or the worst sleep during menstruation. And then if you look at before ovulation and after ovulation, the better sleep is in the before ovulation, so in the follicular phase. And then kind of worse sleep is in the luteal phase. So in luteal, we're a little more progesterone dominant, and in follicular, we're a little more estrogen dominant. And so if you kind of look at that and then think about not only the apnea events, but as we start to lose the hormones. So when we're ovulating, both our estrogen and our progesterone are at their highest point. And that's when we're getting the best sleep. Right. And also there was more, there is a protective effect of both estrogen and progesterone on our respiratory system. So as we start to lose those hormones, there's less of a protective effect on our respiratory system. And that's why more apneas happen. And when I say apnea, it's that little, when your throat collapses and you have a little bit of trouble breathing, so then your body wakes itself up. And I'm curious about that because there isn't a ton of research on that, but I'm curious about that because apneas happen more in the later half of the night, because that's when we have more REM sleep, is in the later half of the night, because our muscles, they go into a state of atonia, so that it's like we lose muscle tone during REM sleep, so we can't act out our dreams. So
wow.
that's when the throat closes a little more during that second half of the night. So I get so curious because there's so many different reasons why midlife, sleep is challenging. But the main thing I feel like people report is those middle of the night awakenings, more so than anything else. I feel like people talk about waking up at like 3 a.m. all the time, more so as they age. And I'm like curious, like, are you having little like breathing disorder events during that time? They have shown that there has, like, the results have been mixed, but it has been some positive feedback to HRT on some of those awakenings. So,
absolutely. I mean, I know that progesterone for me absolutely has helped me with sleep, for sure. I mean, I've never been a great sleeper. I've always woken up multiple times a night. And I've done a lot of work to improve my sleep, and I go to bed early. I wake up early. So I've always like had a pretty set routine of going to bed and getting up, and like I do all the different things. So I end up getting a decent amount of sleep, but it takes a lot of work. But I wake up multiple times. I've just never been a great sleeper. But progesterone has absolutely helped me with my sleep, for sure.
Oh, that's so good to hear. I'm not quite there yet, but I'm curious, like what anecdotally will happen. But it's nice to hear positive statements like that things are being helpful.
Oh. Yeah, definitely. And then there's a lot of that, waking up at 3 a.m, just because we've got, like you said, there's a lot of more going on in our brains. I mean, people have a lot of things going on at this stage of life too. There's just a lot more. And so then once you're up and then your mind starts racing, I mean, there's just that's a real thing. That is a real thing.
What's interesting is when a lot of the studies show that when you age match women that are having hot flashes versus ones that aren't, because primarily the HRT seems to work pretty well on hot flashes specifically. But it does also improve apnea, they've shown. So I'm wondering if that's helping the tone of the muscles. But also they've shown that when people don't have hot flashes versus when they do, there's still just as many nighttime wake-ups from the people that aren't having hot flashes. So hot flashes aren't the only, like, temperature changes aren't the only things that are waking us up. It's very
absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I can say just from people I've worked with, from friends, and I can say even personally, I mean, that's one thing I never have had. I never had hot flashes in the middle of the night. That's never a reason that I woke up. And like I said, I still wake up. Even with the progesterone, I still wake up a little bit less, but I still wake up. And so, and hot flashes is not one of the reasons. So there you go.
Yeah. There you go. It's multi-pronged. Like, so to speak of that, like, our brain is very full. There's a lot going on. I'm going to like reverse engineer of something that I thought about when you look at the studies on exercise and sleep. Okay. So yes, exercise, like, there's tons and tons of studies that show that regular exercise will have a positive impact on your sleep quality, duration, efficiency, how fast you fall asleep, all of that. However, there is also just as many studies that show the same positive effect from acupuncture, meditation, a physical therapist stretching you a few times a week. So things that aren't necessarily they're movement and their nervous system related, but they're not necessarily intensity related. But these studies also show that when you have, they looked at when they matched people who had an active lifestyle, so maybe like working on your feet all day, not sedentary desk worker, or people that did a lot of household activities, that there's no sleep benefit from that. right? Versus exercise or all these other modalities. So I'm like, okay, so going to a yoga class is probably, depending on the yoga class and the type of yoga, but maybe has like the same intensity factor on the body as having a really active life or household cleaning a lot. So what is it? And that's what I was really thinking about.
So is it more nervous? So it's more nervous system related.
I think it's, having something that does deal with circulation, the body movement, but is more protected of like time to yourself and self-care. It's time that's like, I don't want to say in a flow state, because you can very much get into a flow state with work or childcare, all the responsibilities, but something that's just not this like dopamine seeking behavior, something where you're doing something for yourself. So it's like leisure time. You know what I mean?
But is it just calming your nervous system?
Calming your nervous system. Yeah. Calming your nervous system that still has, there is the hormonal shifts that do happen with the intensity of exercise, but why is it that these other modalities that do have to do with calming your nervous system work just as well? And so I do think finding time and a practice that's for you to offload. So you're not on all day. And then the first time you have downtime is when you lay down to sleep at night.
Right.
Oh,
absolutely. Well, I think that's also why it's so important to have like that nighttime routine. And, I always say like good sleep hygiene and that winding down time, and not going like right from your screens to bed, or going right from, watching a show or doing work to trying to go to bed. And, you can't do that. You have to have that winding down time. And I think most people know that. I think most people don't do it. Yeah. Most people don't have a nighttime routine. I think some people by now, implemented maybe a morning routine. I think a lot of people don't have a nighttime routine, but we know we need to do it. But there is a really big importance there. So actually, what do you tell your clients about a nighttime routine? And do you have any like super tips there for people to implement? Have you ever looked at a skincare product and thought, I wonder if this is actually going to work? I mean, I think we've all done that, right? With OneSkin, I never wonder if it's going to work because I have real proof. Their whole company is led by scientists with backgrounds in tissue engineering, stem cell biology, and skin regeneration. And their products are backed by rigorous lab and clinical studies. The OS1 body is definitely helping my crepey skin, and I'm obsessed with the tinted OS1 Face SPF. It feels like butter going on, and it feels so good knowing that it's moisturizing my skin and protecting it all at the same time. I just love it. At the heart of their topical supplements is their proprietary OS1 peptide, the first ingredient scientifically proven to reverse skin's biological age by targeting cellular senescence. Those are those zombie cells that make your skin age faster than it needs to. Think about that crepey skin that we all want to get rid of. The research on their OS1 peptide has been published in peer-reviewed journals such as NPJ Aging. And not only that, the data for OS1 and their products clearly are listed on their website, so you can learn all about that and the incredible science behind all of their products. In lab studies, they've measured a 130% increase in collagen production with their OS1 eye cream. And another study showed that their SPF neutralizes free radicals, those are those bad guy compounds that I always talk about, 4 times more effectively than other so-called anti-aging sunscreens. The proof is in the numbers, friends. Try OneSkin and see for yourself. And you can get 15% off your first order with the code KERI, that's KERI, at oneskin.co/Keri. That's oneskin.co/Keri. Or what do you think is most powerful for a nighttime routine?
Well, I think it's tough because if you think about it, a morning routine, you're fresh. You haven't had to make all these like cognitive demands throughout the day.
Right.
The time you get to the night to try to have discipline around something is very hard. Your brain doesn't want to do that.
Absolutely.
So I actually think when I am working with a client, I will focus on their morning routine much more so than their evening routine, because your cognition is more fresh in the morning. So even taking, a 5-10 minute morning meditation or an afternoon meditation where you are getting out and walking and getting the circadian rhythm of the sunlight, that's another thing we can talk about is light exposure. I feel like there's more adherence whenever you're taking these things earlier in the day. But then as you start to do that, then your body will be trained to be able to like maybe take more of a break at night and be like, or catch yourself. Well, like, I've been scrolling for, 45 minutes, maybe take a break and I can just sit with myself for a few moments. So the nighttime routine, I do have, I am a Kundalini yoga teacher, so I always go on and on about this Harvard randomized controlled trial that studied a Kundalini yoga meditation for sleep that you're meant to do right before bed. And the results were like astounding versus sleep hygiene alone. Like the people that did it continued to do it like 6 months to a year afterwards. And they ended up like not being in insomnia criteria anymore. People overall the median got about an hour more sleep every night. And I have, if you go to my website, we can link it at the end. I actually have an audio recording of that specific meditation that people could practice. But what it's interesting about it is, as a sleep expert now, I see how it kind of works because it's really engaging your brain. So your brain doesn't have time to go down a rabbit hole of catastrophizing or planning. There's a breath retention and a breath that starts to calm down like your vagus nerve and your vagus nervous system. There's a mantra, so your brain has to remember to do that. And you're not meant to close your eyes. You're supposed to keep your eyes open a little bit. And that's important because there's something called paradoxical intention. When you try to fall asleep, you're not asleep. Right. And so that's one of the big things is, yes,
it's like falling asleep in class. It's like if you went to a class in school late at 9 o'clock at night, you would definitely fall asleep. No one wants to stay awake, right?
Exactly. And so I myself have a hard time sitting down to do this meditation because I don't want to like do something good for myself at night. I just want to like collapse. But when I have done it, I really struggle to stay awake for the duration of the meditation. Because I'm not trying to fall asleep. And that's a huge, cutting ahead to not just the wind down routine, but that's like one huge thing I always say to people that I'm sure you're already aware of is don't spend any time in bed trying to fall asleep.
Right. Yeah. It makes a lot of sense. I want to go back to one thing you just said in terms of, compliance with a routine. And I do think that many people will comply better in the morning. And many, like you said, you're fresher in the morning. I mean, I personally, I love the morning routine because I am just a real morning person, but I've always been that way. Not everyone is like that. But even if you're not like that, it is a little bit easier to do those things. But I want to go back to that a little bit because the other thing about that, if you can really dial into that morning routine a little bit, there are things that you can do in the morning that you hinted at this, but I just want to make sure people really, really heard that. Things you can do in the morning that you will still reap the benefits of at night. So you can kind of work on your sleep in the morning. Like there are things you can do in the morning that you're going to reap those benefits at night, whether it's doing, a yoga class, whether it's, so getting in something that's good for your nervous system in the morning, whether it's getting that morning sunlight, whether it's even just getting something crossed off your list that maybe would normally wake you up in the middle of the night, like getting something done like that. So there's certain things you can do in the morning that again are ultimately going to help you later on that night sleep, even if you don't think they're directly related. So it's just sort of like another way to think about it. And you sort of hinted at it, but I just, again, wanted to make sure people really heard that.
Yeah. I mean, you said it, right? Just taking those moments to take a moment with yourself both like, yeah, meditating, being like still with your thoughts so that you practice being still before you lay down to sleep at night. And also, like you said, writing things out. That's actually a great evening thing to do as well. And you can even think about it for the next morning, but at night, having a pen and paper nearby and just writing out, what do I need to do tomorrow? Or like, what am I worried about? And then
I tell people to do that. I would say like write your stress list so you can put it to bed. Put your stress list to bed, and then you can go back to it in the morning, but it kind of gets it out of your brain.
Yeah, exactly.
And another thing I want to note that you mentioned when you were talking about the Kundalini Yoga meditation, another thing, and I love how you said that, like that you have to keep your eyes awake. I love that concept. I really do, because it makes so much sense that then you fall asleep. But aside from that, I like that you said that that's something you have people do, because it's like the one thing. Like sometimes I think like a whole routine, like you need to turn off the lights a half an hour before, you're going to bed, and, take this supplement and have a cup of tea and take a bath and do this and put your legs up against the wall and, dry brush and do all these things. Like sometimes it's like, it's too much. It's just too much. But if you can, have some of these things in the morning that might help you at night, and then have just that one thing that's going to be really effective that you can do consistently at night, maybe that's all that it takes to help you, sleep a little bit better. So that's what I really like about the yoga meditation thing, especially for people that are having a lot of trouble getting into a routine at all at night and are just too tired to deal with any of it. Maybe it's just pick that one thing that's like the most effective.
Yeah. It's funny. I did make something for my clients that it's like a sleep menu. And the way I designed it is I was like, okay, let's think of it like a build-a-bowl place, or where you go in and you pick your base and you pick your toppings and etc. You don't want like all of the things.
Right.
That could be overwhelming, but you can like kind of mix and match and play around with what works best for you. It's like, try this one in the morning, try these, here's your options, pick which one you want to do at night. Because there's so many different, at the end of the day, it all kind of boils down to temperature, light, and stress.
Yeah.
And so different ways that we can mediate and work with those things during different points of the day. Because like you said, it does start first thing in the morning. Like basically the moment we open our eyes in the morning, we're setting up our nervous system for the day. As soon as our eyes open, they're taking in light, and that's actually setting up when we start to secrete melatonin at the end of the day. Like it all starts in the morning. So that's kind of where I point people to when we're working together. And then over time, as their sleep gets better, which by the way, it doesn't take long. I haven't even brought it up yet, but what I do is called cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia. And it is the gold standard. It works like better than sleep pills. It lasts longer, and it works so fast. There's people that I've worked with that they haven't been sleeping for 20, 30 years. They are sleeping in 3 sessions.
Wow.
Yeah, it works really well. And it's mostly mindset, but it's like steps. It's like, what's the lowest hanging fruit? We're going to tackle that first. And then the next week it's the next, and then the next. And sometimes it's so obvious. But we just get so resilient. I think I brought this up before on the panel that we were speaking on about motherhood, where I think sometimes a lot of this insomnia, sometimes some of us, like you and I, have had it our whole lives, but for a lot of people, it gets kicked off in motherhood because we start to attune ourselves to someone else, and the baby's waking up, and we start to get worried about falling asleep because when's the baby going to wake up? And then that can persist well after our kids are sleeping through the night.
Right.
And so we start to get this like learned pattern behavior of, overnight wake ups, feeling stressed out about going to sleep, that has to be kind of like reverse engineered and tweaked so that we start to feel just confident that we can go to sleep easily, and confident that we can sleep through the night. One of the things, I'm not saying this sounds just like kind of general. Don't get mad at me. I'm just the messenger. There's actual science behind this. One of the things when they look at why women have more insomnia than men, women do tend to kind of ruminate more and catastrophize more. And whereas men are more behavior based, if they have certain behaviors, they can shift the behavior and it'll help. But with women, we tend to kind of ruminate and worry about things more. But what's really great is we respond more to the mindset type things of looking how we're looking at something, kind of giving ourselves these affirmations, like just being more educated on what sleep actually looks like in this phase of our life. And then it's like accepting that, but also realizing that it can be better. Because I think sometimes during that time when women fall into insomnia right after motherhood, we have to push through. And we're so resilient. And so we just think it's normal to not be sleeping well. And then this just continue for decades. Right.
And we just deal.
We're just like, well, somebody's got to handle it. So I'm handling it. I'm going to drink more coffee. I'm good to go. Like, not good to go. We might always be tired, but we're like, this is just what it is. This is just this season of life. And then and
it's even what you just said about the ruminating thing. It's like, how many times like I could just like imagine like, something's going on with your kids and you look over at your significant other or your husband or whoever. And it's like, they're passed out, sleeping like a baby. And you're like, wait, what? I'm the one that's like, up all night thinking about this. Right. Like, it's like all on you, like, as you're saying that. And that's just kind of like you said, like, that's just like how it is. Like,
that's just how it is. And there are biological reasons for that, right?
Right.
Like when we're pregnant, the size of our amygdala increases by 50%. The amygdala is the part of the brain that kind of like makes us hyper alert and like attuned to situations that may be dangerous, right? That increases by 50% when we're pregnant. It does go back to normal, but then during that year, it stays that way for like the whole first year of our infant's life. I think sometimes during that year, then we pick up behaviors and patterns that can stick for decades.
Yeah.
And I think women don't realize that. My main demographic of clients is actually retirees or young people that are really into biohacking and want to optimize their sleep. But this age group that we're talking about and this age group that's listening to this podcast right now, I don't see them in my practice because I think everyone is just like, this is
powering through.
I'm in, we're powering through what it is. And it's sad to me because it could really be helped with,
so you think they're waiting a little bit longer to see you?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. But
okay, everyone, go see Sarah. Get some help now. Don't power through, mamas.
No.
Okay.
Sorry. I just got one of the other reasons I wanted to do this today is there was a lecture this morning that I attended with this woman, Sarah Petroski, who's one of the only people out there researching like women's hormones and sleep. And she was mentioning that, a lot of these sleep issues come up in perimenopause. And then if they go untreated, after maybe 7 to 10 years, the menopause symptoms just kind of go away. Maybe we treat them, maybe we do things to mitigate them, but they do disappear. But if you haven't treated the sleep symptoms do not go away.
Right.
Like, it's not like we suddenly turn 65 and now we're sleeping well. Like it's a skill that we really need to foster and put a lot of importance on.
Yeah. Can we talk about the glymphatic system and how important that is? I think I find it so fascinating. We've talked about it a little bit on the podcast here. And I think many people that listen to the podcast know about the lymphatic system. And we've talked again, a little bit about the lymphatic system and how that is like the waste system in the brain and how we need to like the waste clearance system, I should say, in the brain and how it's most active at night. And we need that sleep time to clear out all of those toxins in our brain, and how it is so important. But it still seems like the research is still really in its infancy stage. So like what's going on there with the lymphatic system?
Well, the good news is, like I said, a lot of people tend to report that it's kind of middle of the night or second half of the night awakenings that are happening during this stage of life. The good news is that the lymphatic clearance system mostly is happening during slow wave sleep. The majority of our slow wave sleep in the first half of the night.
Mm.
So the good news is it doesn't seem to be that impacted just due to this perimenopausal change. The bad news is overall, we all lose slow wave sleep as we age, right? And it is really important because what's going on there is, so our brains are always active, right? So, the different stages of sleep, there's waking, what the brain waves look like. They're very active when we're awake. Then the next stage of sleep is this kind of like when you're like falling off, like little micro sleeps. And then we go into N2. So there's N1, N2, and the N part just means not REM sleep, because REM sleep, rapid eye movement sleep, was the first kind of brainwave thing that they noticed when they were studying sleep. So there's REM sleep and not REM sleep, and then slow wave sleep. So what happens in slow wave sleep is these really active brain waves start to get really big, like big waves on the ocean. And what's happening is when there's a big dip in that brain wave, there is a wash of cerebral spinal fluid that goes over our brain, that the lymphatic system is clearing out all of the proteins and plaques that build up on our brain over the course of the day. And so the only time that happens is during slow wave sleep. So it is very important. And so that toxin clearance is very important to clear all of that out, because a buildup of that, has been correlated with like all kinds of neurodegenerative disease, like Alzheimer's and
So I've read that sleeping before midnight is more helpful than your hours after midnight. So even if you sleep, let's say 7 hours, but you sleep, 2 of those hours is before midnight, or you sleep like from 12 to 7 versus 10 to 5, like the 10 to 5 is going to be more beneficial than 12 to 7. Does any of that related to the lymphatic system?
So sort of, I feel like that's a generalization based on if we all kind of have like 9 to 5 schedules, but the fact is then, like, what happens with shift workers and all these people that aren't on that schedule? Like, yes, shift work has been correlated with higher rates of different types of diseases. So it's not great. We want to be right. But we're going to get that. It's not like if you wait and you stay up till 1 a.m. is when you go to bed. If you're still getting that amount of sleep that you need, if you're not waking up until like 7 to 8 hours later, that's not impacting your sleep architecture.
Okay. And you could still be getting great slow wave sleep.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So why does that slow wave sleep get worse as we age?
I'm not entirely sure. It's, I think it has something to do with growth hormone. So, and melatonin, as babies, we have the most growth hormone and melatonin, and then we get another big spike of growth hormone around puberty. And you'll notice that's where teenagers are sleeping a lot as well. Right. So as we age, we're not producing as much growth hormone. And so I'm not entirely sure on that. I can't say for sure, but it just seems that that's one of the main other things that slow wave sleep does. So maybe it's just like, oh, we're done growing, so we're not going to produce as much slow wave sleep. Right. But we do still need it, obviously. Right.
It's just one of those things with aging.
One of the things that definitely does help slow wave sleep that they've shown is exercise. So when we were talking before about exercise, and maybe it's more in need of calming the nervous system, this is one of those instances where intensity matters. So I think when we're getting the heart rate up, and we're having also weight training specifically, there have been studies that show that weight training specifically increases adenosine, and an increase in adenosine increases our sleep pressure, and that increases our slow wave sleep.
Oh, wow. That's super fascinating. Do you like sleep trackers like the Oura Ring?
I like them and I don't like them. Okay. I personally have never had one. At this point, I'm curious and I would like to wear one. But when I started to get into this, I got accepted to my sleep medicine program a week before I found out I was pregnant. It was like, my sleep is crazy while I'm pregnant. My sleep is crazy with it. If I'm not good at something, I don't want to see it. Like I
Right.
knew I was going to get a bad sleep score. And so I was like, I don't want to know. At this point, I think I would be interested in it. But the good side of that is, the old saying, what gets measured gets managed.
Right.
So sometimes if you're just seeing and if you're noticing like, oh, if you're not giving yourself enough sleep opportunity, not giving yourself a chance, if you're just delaying bedtime and then waking up to go to work, I think they're great for that. They also seem to be great. Like some of the new Apple Watch, I think has a feature where it can start to detect apneas.
Yeah.
So if you're noticing that you're waking up a lot more, that might be like, oh, maybe I need to go get this checked out. Maybe I need to go. It's not as great for looking at the stages of sleep. I know.
Yeah, that's what I was curious about. Yeah. If you were looking at the different stages.
There's an algorithm where they're like kind of guessing it based on how much you're moving at night and what your heart rate is, but there's no way for it to know like your brainwave activity. And then like you said, it's great because for such a long time, people weren't putting as much importance on sleep. And so now people know that it's important, but one of the pitfalls is, like we said, when you try to sleep, you're not really asleep. So some people can be very over focused on it and over focused on the numbers. Right. You're already like having this hyper arousal. There's actually a name for it that I think came from the nutrition sciences. Like when people are very focused on eating healthy,
like orthorexia.
Yeah. So there's also a term orthosomnia.
Right.
Where people are so focused on their sleep data that it's like not helpful.
Right.
And can
right. Well, I think that's why, right. I'm sure for some people it's helpful and for some people it's hurtful. I think I wore a Oura ring for a couple of years and then I found like it kind of had the information I needed. I think at first what I found to be most helpful was there were times where I'd wake up and think I didn't have a great night's sleep because I felt like I woke up so many times during the night. But then when I looked at it, I was like, oh, actually, but I went to bed really early and I didn't get out of bed till this time. So even though I woke up, all these different times, I actually gave myself all this time to sleep and it actually made me feel better. And then I kind of got a sense of it and I got like an understanding of it. So I didn't feel like I needed to track anymore, but it actually made me feel better. And I did like tracking it for a while. And I did find it useful with clients too sometimes. But again, I think it really does depend on the person.
Knowing that that's normal. We wake up like anywhere from like 9 to 10 times per night. Like sometimes you'll have that sleep where it's like you close your eyes and it feels like you just blinked and you open up your eyes, but that's so rare. That happens sometimes. And I think some people think that's how sleep is always supposed to look. And that's absolutely not what sleep looks like. Sleep looks like, we go through these cycles and we do wake up many times throughout the course of the night. It's just that if they don't last, I think it's more than like 2 to 5 minutes, we might not remember that we woke up. But we're waking up many times throughout the night. So again, coming back to the CBT-I and different tools, it's managing how quickly you go back to sleep. Not awake and start being like, oh, I'm up again. And you start doing the backwards clock thing. You're like, okay, I have to get up at 6. It's 2 now. So 2, 4. And you're like counting how much. People do that a lot, right? They're like, how many hours do I have of sleep if I go back to sleep now? And they're just awake and making themselves more alert. Their cortisol is rising and it's becoming now harder to go back to sleep. So a lot of the tools work on really reducing the amount of time you spend awake, not necessarily so much how many times you actually wake up.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So what are some of your absolute like top favorite tools aside from the Kundalini meditation you mentioned already? And you also mentioned, or you touched on morning sunlight. You quickly touched on that. We can go back to that too, if you want. What are some other tools that are your favorite to help someone get good quality sleep?
Well, like I mentioned before, definitely don't get out of bed if you're not sleeping. And just
don't get out of bed or get out of bed?
Get out of bed.
Get out of bed.
If you find that you're sitting there, if you're just like relaxing, fine. Like what's that term that the kids use, like bed rot? That's not a good idea. But if you're just like chilling and you're fine, okay. But if you're sitting there and you're like, I'm not sleeping.
Yeah. If you're getting stressed about it.
Get up and don't look at the clock. I think that's my number one thing. Don't look at your phone. Don't look at your clock. Set an alarm. Like, they have those hatch lights and you can like turn off the time. There's an option to turn off the time. So it's just the sunlight will come up. Or even if you have an old school alarm clock, or even if you're just using your phone, like set the alarm, put it in a drawer in your nightstand, and don't look at it. So that if you do wake up, I don't want you to know what time it is. Just be like, I'm up, and then take as much time as you need to kind of like calm yourself. And then when you feel tired, get back into bed. That's like the number one thing, because it's make bed equals asleep, feeling sleepy and being asleep. Like you mentioned, the regularity, you said you're really good at this, like waking up at the same time, going to bed at the same time. That's really great, but also life. So not to get too hung up on the regularity, because like, do you travel? Do you have like a job?
Right. Of course. Yeah.
Like allow yourself some wiggle room. The meditation, the cold, dark room is really clutch. Like temperature has a lot to do with our sleep.
What temperature do you like?
It's colder than you think. Honestly, it's 70, like 65 to 70 is kind of like the recommended good range. Because also during just regular REM sleep, not even talking about going through a hormonal change, in just regular REM sleep, our bodies like have no thermoregulation. They're all over the place. So if you wake up during a dream or something, the chances are you're going to be like super hot, and then it's going to wake you up even more. Our bodies need to drop a few degrees in order to sleep. Our heart rate comes down, our body temperature comes down. So having like a dark, cool room, the sound thing I find to be very personal. They say a quiet room, but like I really love a sound machine that has a continuous sound. Like, and also like, we're New Yorkers, it's loud out there. I'm used to noise. I kind of like background noise is more calming to me than a quiet space. I feel like I sleep the worst when I go camping. Like it's too quiet. It's freaking me out. But if there's anything that's getting like big spikes, so like don't fall asleep with the TV on, light in the sound that you might be like, oh, it relaxes me and I fall asleep to it. But you don't even realize that you're getting those micro wake ups from the changes in the volume. Right. Anything else? Oh, we haven't even talked about like alcohol or caffeine at all, but yeah, like nighttime, like alcohol really impacts your sleep. So, move it earlier, like advocate for.
Yeah. Well, what do you feel? I mean, I think so many people, it's such a good trend right now. I think that so many people are reducing the amount of alcohol they're consuming. And I think especially with midlife women, just because I think so many people, alcohol just affects them so much differently in midlife. I think that so many women that could drink just aren't able to tolerate it the way they used to be able to. They not only is it so disruptive to their sleep, like incredibly disruptive, but also they are just, they have terrible hangovers like they used to never have before. I personally can't drink alcohol almost at all anymore, just because it will trigger a migraine for me. But I think I don't think I'm so unique there. I think that's very common. And I also just think it's a little bit of a trend in general. Haven't like the sales of alcohol like totally plummeted recently?
I have heard that.
Yeah.
Working with people, there's still quite a lot of like nightly.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah. Well, and people think, because people think, oh, a glass of wine helps me fall asleep. I remember that when I did drink, I do remember, I'd have a sip of wine and it would pass me right out. And then I would wake up. I would wake up and I said, I always woke up, but I would wake up even more. Right. Yeah. I would wake up even more. So obviously, so what do you do with your clients? And you tell them do you just tell them to stop drinking or to drink earlier? Like, what do you do?
Drink earlier. Like, because people, a lot of times they don't want to give it up. It's like, if it's something that is a ritual with their partner. And then if that's not moving the needle, I'm like, okay, well, let's try cutting it out and see what that looks like, So again, like start with the lowest hanging fruit and then see if that moves the needle. And then if not, dial it back even more.
Yeah. And I kind of think caffeine's the same way too. It's like one of caffeine and alcohol to me, those are really obvious things to address. Like if you're if you're sleeping terribly and you're waking up all night and you're drinking, coffee at 4 p.m, or you're having 3, glasses of wine. I mean, those are things to address right away. Like you can't, you got to address those things right away, before we can really help you here. So, and again, obviously, even with caffeine, it depends on how you metabolize caffeine. So, so one of the last things I want to ask you, any favorite sleep supplements?
Sleep supplements. So everyone, melatonin is a whole other conversation.
I'm not a big melatonin fan.
Yeah.
I really only like melatonin for jet lag, just to help you get back onto a rhythm, but I don't love it for daily use.
Exactly. And that's what
I don't know about you.
Right. So that's what it's for. It's for jet lag. I will also use it like with the time change twice a year.
Right.
Because you're basically creating like a false sunset in your body. It's we tend to start to secrete melatonin, as soon as the sun starts to go down, like we have that internally in our bodies, taking it just, you're just moving the time of when that's happening in your body. There's a very slight hypnotic effect to it that does make some people fall asleep, but that's not the main thing that it's doing. Right? And then there's also it stays in your body for a while. So if you don't take it at the right time, you're going to wake up like really pretty sleepy and groggy still. So I don't love melatonin. That said, for some of my older clients, we do lose melatonin as we age. So sometimes it is advised for people like over 65 to maybe take a melatonin supplement, and then they find that really helpful.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Magnesium is a big one that people talk about.
Glycinate.
Glycinate. L-glycine. L-theanine, I feel like mixed reviews. But some people really like that, the L-theanine and glycine. Basically magnesium, there's not like a ton of research on it, but it is a relaxant in general. And so sometimes what I think is the ceremony of doing the thing is
absolutely. Yeah.
I did my training at University of Oxford, and my partner is also from England, and they all drink like Ovaltine, malted milk, Horlicks before bed. And there is a benefit to that.
Yeah. Well, it's the same thing with like herbal tea. They say that part of the ritual that drinking tea is calming. And they say that part of it is just the ritual of drinking tea is calming, which is, by the way, another thing I love for sleep is chamomile tea.
Tea.
And I don't know if you've read the research on that, but there is the whole chamomile tea building up in your system over time is.
Over time. I hadn't read that. So it's more of a prolonged thing.
Yeah. It's like if you consume it regularly, it can build up and can be just as effective as over-the-counter sleep aids.
Yeah. I hadn't heard that. That's very cool.
I think it's some older research. I have to go back to it, but it's something I'd read a long time ago.
That's cool. Yeah.
I mean, and I've always drank chamomile tea at night as something to be helpful.
Yes. Yeah. And then also you're getting the warming. So there's a supplement that I do like that I used for a while. It's British based because they have that routine. It was called Cuddle Sleep Health, not to name brand. I'm not associated with them, but it was like this, cocoa chocolate. It tasted really nice, but it had glycine and magnesium and L-theanine. But putting it in a warm cup of milk, which also has the magnesium and just like the intentionality and just calmingness of that. So that was really nice. And a lot of people, there's not a ton of research on supplements, to be honest, but anecdotally, I've seen a lot of clients respond to like a magnesium, not magnesium on itself, but like a magnesium glycinate combination.
Yeah. That's what I was saying. Yeah. The magnesium glycinate that's the form that I would recommend for sleep too. That I like that for people. I mean, I take that too. And like you said, sometimes part of it is even just the routine of it. I mean, there's some placebo effect, I'm sure.
Yeah. Which is just as powerful as we know.
Right. Absolutely. Okay. Last thing for you. I could talk to you about sleep all day. Last question for you. What do you do to live your most nutritious life on a daily basis?
Well, I get lots of sleep.
Or what's the one thing that ignites your nutritious life? Like, what's like the non-negotiable? Aside from sleep, I'm going to say aside from sleep for you.
Aside from sleep, honestly, is my daily meditation practice. Hands down. Hands down. Like, I've done it. I've had a practice of doing this for myself every single day for 20 some years now.
Wow.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Did it every day when I was pregnant, did it while I was giving birth in the hospital, like after she was born with my daughter strapped to me. So she knows now, so she comes, sits on my lap while I'm doing my morning meditation. And
amazing. Really what type of meditation do you do?
I do like some Kundalini breath practices. I also love, the TM. I did TM for a long time, but now I really do love my Kundalini meditation practices. And because they're actually quicker. And so once the daughter was born, I'm like, okay, this, 30-minute practice needs to get cut down a little bit. So, yeah.
Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing all of your incredible wisdom today. I'm going to put in the show notes where we can find you, but is there anything else you want to share before we wrap this up today?
Oh my gosh, just thank you so much for having me on. I hope we can get together in person and like go exercise.
Yes.
Our slow wave sleep and our sleep.
Definitely. I know. I want to see you again in person soon. Thank you so much.
Right. I just wanted to show this one thing because I'm so excited about it. I just made it last month, but I did this is my sleep journal. It's
amazing.
Rise. It's on my website, but it has all of these things that we've talked about today. There's sleep hygiene in there. The meditation that I talked about is in there. And then also a subjective sleep tracker. So like a evening worry journal and a morning to-do list. Amazing. So all the things that we've talked about are in here in one place that you can put and have on your nightstand, like without a tracker, to just kind of look at these things over time. And I also added in there, because a lot of the sleep trackers don't show this, but like what day of your menstrual cycle you're on, and did you exercise this day? And so that you can kind of start to see over time your own patterns and what affects your sleep or not. And there's also a space in there for dream journaling, because we didn't get into that, but I find dreams so fascinating. And
so do I. We're going to need to do another podcast on that, because I love talking about dreams.
Yeah,
and I am so fascinated about that too. And I've always had wild dreams and I love learning about that. So yeah, we need to have a whole other conversation about that, but we'll link to your website so people can find that journal that you just showed.
Yeah. Thanks so much.
Congrats on that. Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks, Keri.
Have you ever looked at a skincare product and thought, I wonder if this is actually going to work? I mean, I think we've all done that, right? With OneSkin, I never wonder if it's going to work because I have real proof. Their whole company is led by scientists with backgrounds in tissue engineering, stem cell biology, and skin regeneration. And their products are backed by rigorous lab and clinical studies. The OS1 body is definitely helping my crepey skin, and I'm obsessed with the tinted OS1 Face SPF. It feels like butter going on, and it feels so good knowing that it's moisturizing my skin and protecting it all at the same time. I just love it. At the heart of their topical supplements is their proprietary OS1 peptide, the first ingredient scientifically proven to reverse skin's biological age by targeting cellular senescence. Those are those zombie cells that make your skin age faster than it needs to. Think about that crepey skin that we all want to get rid of. The research on their OS1 peptide has been published in peer-reviewed journals such as NPJ Aging. And not only that, the data for OS1 and their products clearly are listed on their website, so you can learn all about that and the incredible science behind all of their products. In lab studies, they've measured a 130% increase in collagen production with their OS1 eye cream. And another study showed that their SPF neutralizes free radicals. Those are those bad guy compounds that I always talk about. 4 times more effectively than other so-called anti-aging sunscreens. The proof is in the numbers, friends. Try OneSkin and see for yourself. And you can get 15% off your first order with the code Keri, that's Keri, at oneskin.co/Keri. That's oneskin.co/Keri.